Alright guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. In this video we're going to touch on the bracket for the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play tournament, and then we're also going to go over the DraftKings picks for it. So we're going to start with the bracket, and then we're going to go into the DraftKings side of it. So we can start off here on the left-hand side. We're going to start with Dustin Johnson here. So Dustin did not make it past the first grouping last year, but in 2017 he won it, and then in 2016 he had a T5. He's won 54% of his head-to-heads. He's also a decent stat fit as well. But I also really like Hideki Matsuyama, who finished T36 here last year, and then 2016 he finished T18. He's also won 50% of his head-to-heads. He's a slightly better stat fit than Dustin Johnson as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if Hideki beats Dustin. But a sneaky play might be Ches Reavie. You know, he's a decent stat fit as well. Like, he finished T29 here last year, so did Brandon Grace. So this isn't going to be the easiest of groupings, but I am going to go with Hideki out of this grouping. The next grouping I want to touch on is going to be Patrick Reed, Sergio Garcia, Shane Lowry, and Andrew Putnam. To me, this seems like a 50-50 coin flip between Patrick Reed and Sergio Garcia. Patrick Reed has finished T9 twice in the last 3 years. He's also won 56% of his head-to-heads, but we know he struggled last week. Sergio Garcia has actually been playing some pretty decent golf this whole year. He finished T9 here last year. He's won 53% of his head-to-heads. And call me crazy, but for some reason, I am trusting Sergio Garcia a little bit more than Patrick Reed. But like I said, that's going to be more of a 50-50 toss-up. Let's get into the next grouping here. So the next grouping is a group that I don't like too much. You got Xander, Rafa, Terrell Hatton, and Lee Westwood. I think any one of these four have a really decent shot at making it, out of this grouping. They've all actually played really well at this course. They all have a T17 finish or better in the last 3 years. And they're all decent head-to-head players, all above 50% in their career head-to-heads. And they're all decent stat fits as well. I think I'll just go with Xander. But this might be an ownership thing. If Xander's going to be higher owned than Rafa or Lee Westwood actually could be a very decent value option for us if we had to go that route. But I'm not going to select either of these guys to win after that. So the next one I want to touch on is going to be Jason Day, Phil Mickelson, Henrik Stenson, and Jim Furyk. So this is kind of one that you might want to avoid. But, Jason Day, he's won 68% of his head-to-head matchups. Phil Mickelson, Henrik, and Jim Furyk have all won over 50% of their head-to-head. So this is going to be a tough one. It's hard to have conviction here, but I just have a strong feeling that Phil Mickelson is going to advance. His lowest finish in the last 3 years at this course has been T18, so not too bad. The next one I want to touch on is going to be the Justin Thomas, Keegan Bradley bracket. And yes, I said it that way on purpose. I don't think Matt Wallace is going to be a threat. And, Justin Thomas has just been playing some phenomenal golf. He finished in the top 4 at this event last year. He's one of the best stat fits in the field as well. I think we can easily roll with Justin Thomas. He should have a pretty easy first round out. The next grouping is going to be the Tiger Woods grouping. Now, this one kind of gets sneaky. So Tiger Woods has actually won 72% of his head-to-heads in his career. He's actually the best stat fit for this course as well, so I really like that. But the problem here is, Brandt Snedeker, he finished T17 here in 17. He also finished T9 here in 2016. Patrick Cantlay finished T17 here in last year. So, man, it's going to be a little bit tough. And Aaron Wise can always pop. He's just been struggling recently, so I don't think we have to worry about that. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Brandt Snedeker could end up being a decent value option. He could possibly pull off the upset. But I'm just not going to pick against Tiger in this type of event. He typically does well in WGC events. And he's a really good stat fit. Like I said, he's top 10 in all the stats I'm looking at this week for this course. So he's going to be a really strong option for us. Then the next grouping is going to be Rory, Matthew Fitzpatrick, and then, Justin Harding and Luke List. Not too worried about those last two. I do think it'll come down to the two guys from England. It's either going to be Rory or Matthew Fitzpatrick. They both made it past the first round of this match play event in each of the last 3 years. Matthew Fitzpatrick has won 47% of his head-to-heads in his career, and Rory has won 60% of his head-to-heads in his career. But the advantage goes to Rory because of his stat fit. He's a better stat fit. Then after that, it makes the picks a little bit easier. I think I'm going to roll with Hideki if I'm going to pick him over Dustin Johnson, and just because I don't really like to trust Sergio. And then Rory's just the best stat fit out of these guys. I'm going to roll with them. That matchup between Rory and Tiger should be fun to watch, though, so make sure you watch that. Now let's get into the right-hand side of the bracket. So on the top right-hand side of the bracket, we start off with Justin Rose, Gary Woodland, Eddie Pepperell, and Emiliano Grillo. So Pepperell and Grillo, I'm not really buying into the head-to-heads for them, but they could pop. They're decent stat fits. Pepperell has been playing some really good golf recently, but I really like Gary Woodland. Gary Woodland has won 60% of his head-to-heads. He's one of the best stat fits in this field. He finished T29 here last year, so he made it past the groupings last year. Justin Rose, he's kind of just been struggling this year. Maybe we can gain an edge by going with Gary Woodland in this as a little bit of a value pick. The next grouping there that I want to touch on is going to be Bubba Watson, Jordan Spieth, Billy Horschel, and Kevin Na. I'm going to go with Bubba Watson. He's just been playing some really good golf. My only worry is something I'll touch on a little bit later on, and when I go over the DraftKings picks, there is a slight worry with Bubba Watson, but he won it last year, T9 the year before that, T28 the year before that, so he should definitely make the cut. After this, we got Paul Casey, Cameron Smith, Charles Howell, and Abraham Answer. To me, it comes down to Charles Howell and Paul Casey. They're virtually the same player, and to me, when we're getting virtually the same player for about the same price, but I think Charles Howell's ownership is going to be lower than Paul Casey, we might as well just go with Charles Howell. They're both over 50% in their head-to-heads in their career. They're both right around the same stat fit. Charles Howell has actually finished T9 here each of the last 2 seasons. Paul Casey finished T17 and T9. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Charles Howell, actually. But, if you wanted to change that, I wouldn't really blame you. And the next grouping, I really don't have a strong feel for. I'm going to be honest with you. Francesco Molinari, Webb Simpson. This could be one of those ones where you just throw away and hope that maybe Thorborn Olsen or someone just makes it upset. Because I don't have a strong feeling for this one. And this could just easily be a toss away. Just because I don't have a strong feeling for this one. I don't think either of them are going to advance after this first round. So I'm going to give the edge, I guess, to Francesco Molinari, who, all these guys right here, they're below 40% in their head-to-heads career-wise. So that's kind of why I want to avoid that. After that, we got Bryson DeChambeau, Mark Leishman, and I actually kind of like Russell Knox as a decent value option. I'm going to go with Russell Knox as a value option. He should be able to get it done, and I don't believe in Bryson in this type of event. He's a little bit of a head case. If you want to go with someone other than Russell Knox, you could go with Mark Leishman. After that, it comes to Tommy Fleetwood or Louis Oosthuizen. I'm going to ride the hot hand of Louis Oosthuizen. He's a slightly better stat fit, and he's a slightly better head-to-head in his career. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Stanley somehow popped and upset those guys as well, because Kyle Stanley, he really struggles hole to hole. Like he'll bogey, double bogey a hole and then get a birdie. So I could see him in a match play type of event making an upset. And then the last grouping, second to last grouping, we've got Tony Finau, Ian Poulter, Kevin Kisner, Kevin Mitchell. This is a tough one as well. I'm going to give the slight edge to Ian Poulter. 65% of his wins have been head-to-heads, and Tony Finau has actually won 75% of his head-to-heads. Then after that, I think Brooks Koepka just has an easy route to pretty much the Final Four after that, especially because we can have more confidence that he's going to advance after that first round. So we can go with Brooks over any one of those 4, Tony Finau, Ian Poulter, Kevin Kisner, or Kevin Mitchell. Then the bracket kind of gets easy to go from there. This is kind of what I'm looking at for my bracket. Obviously, you guys can pick it and make it fun for you guys, but that's kind of just the overall feel of my thought process when I want to make my DraftKings picks, because the longer they play, the better it is going to be for you. So Rory McIlroy, obviously, I had him selected as the winner, so I want to fit him in there. But I want to fit in my top 4 into this build. But as you guys will see, that's not going to be easy to do. But like I said, Bubba Watson, I do worry about them. This is a long event. It starts on Wednesday, and if you're in the championship, it's just a long, tedious event. He's played 3 events in a row. This is going to be his 4th event in a row, so that does worry me slightly. So maybe on the DraftKings side, you might want to fade him, but I just think he's going to be in for a strong week. Hideki, like I said, I have him over Dustin Johnson, and if he's going to be able to get to that Final Four, like I'm predicting, that's a great value option for you. Brooks Koepka's priced up a little bit because he has that easy route to the Final Four, like I touched on. So those are the top 4. Then after that, we kind of want to try to fit in Charles Howell, just because we had a little bit of conviction with him over Paul Casey. And, you know, he's just been playing some really good golf so far. He played well at the WGC, the last WGC event. So let's roll Charles Howell there. And then obviously we're going to have to go off of someone here. Rory's just so priced up. Even though I think he's going to win, I might have to go off of Rory. I don't want to, but he's just so priced up that he might not make the most optimal lineup. Now, the most optimal lineup is kind of strange. So, obviously, if you're trying to win, you need to have the winner in your bracket. But if you're just trying to cash, you want to have the most players that play the longest time. And some of the strategies that people were talking about was that you cannot pick someone from the same bracket group, and you don't want to have players from the same bracket region. Now, obviously, you want to cover all 4 bracket regions with your picks, but if you're you don't have conviction, you say, you know, this is about a 50-50 of who's going to make it past. Let's say you really like Tony Finau and Ian Poulter, and you kind of think that they're going to advance the round after that. If you went ahead and picked both of those guys in your bracket, knowing in your head that you're thinking that they're going to make it to the Final Four and maybe possibly win it, I am fine with that strategy. That makes perfect sense to me because that's going to help you cash. Now, obviously, you're not going to win with that strategy, but if your goal is to cash, that's not going to be a horrible strategy, and a lot of people aren't thinking that way. So it's not going to be a horrible strategy. For this bracket, let's finish it out. Russell Knox, like I said, he's a value option. I do think he's going to be a one-and-done type of pick. He's going to win, and then he's going to lose in the next round after that. This is the best lineup that I could come up with right now. Definitely could change. I'm going to be making a bunch of lineups because this is something fun that we can do and have fun.